Hey, what's up? This is our third video in my Ableton free online course thing. And before we begin with the next section, we need to do an exercise. If you're right-handed, keep that on the mouse. If you're left-handed, you kind of have to figure this out on your own. But if you're right-handed, you take your left hand, you take your pinky, and then put your pinky on shift. And then rest your... don't press anything, but rest your index finger on C. Now that is, this is your basic macro. If you've ever played an online game, this is where your left hand should be at all times, unless you're playing the keyboard or something. But this is your resting position. This is your Ableton home row, and I'm serious about that. So right now, if you press, but don't press anything, but if you were to press it, Control C is copy. You move your index finger over one key. Control V is paste. Okay? And then you move that back to C, which is Control copy. You move that up slightly to Control D. Alright? And what you did right there, that's basically the only place where your index finger will go. Now, you take your thumb. If you want to play, you press the space bar with your thumb. You don't move your pinky or your index finger. And then you can play. And then you press it again to stop. Then you press it again to play again. It's pretty fun, hey? If there's one more kind of shortcut. You move your thumb over to Alt, and then you move your index finger up to D, and that is duplicate. So Control Alt is duplicate automation and only automation. You copy and paste it over. Control D by itself is to duplicate the audio through a set amount of time, and this is how you speed up your workflow and you'd be awesome. So what I'm going to do is just kind of introduce you to working with audio and working with MIDI in the basic sense. So in Ableton, there's an audio channel and a MIDI channel, and a send and return, and buses and all that fun stuff. Basically, is only audio and MIDI. So right now we have an audio track. It says audio right there. And you can tell it can receive audio only, but it can also receive MIDI. But we'll get into that later. That's more advanced routing. You right-click, insert MIDI track. Bam! So you have an audio and a MIDI track, right? And both of these kind of do something different. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go for an immediate result. So you can get down to understanding what's going on. So you'll take this if you see it. If you don't, select segment, select it, blue, right click on the blue part, loop selection. Right. So right now, this is 4 bars. Right. You want 1 bar, so you bring that down. Right. And that's an easy way to discern a bar. So you'll notice that you have a bunch of lines here. And for the sake of ease, we'll right-click, bam, on here, right? Because you want to make it so each line is like a beat, basically. So we go quarter. So we want to chop the lines into quarter bars. So you notice the lines, bam. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? This is the basis of our beat. So sample packs, you find them online, Google it, look up sample packs. Download them, and you can get a vast selection. So what you want to do, we'll start off with a basic kick. So you find your kick, right? Alright, that one's I'm kind of happy with. You take it and you drop it there. And what I used to do is I would copy, paste, paste, paste. But that takes way too long. So you notice how you always have your pinky on Control, move it up to D, select, then press that. Right? It duplicates the sound or the audio. It duplicates anything for the allotted kind of time. If you don't do it correctly, if you just select it and then duplicate it, it doesn't really work, and you get something weird, right? So you want to delete that. Select the quarter bar. Control. I keep on forgetting it's control. Hold control and then press D. D, D, D. Okay? And then you can even select that, D. Select that, D, and you can go on forever. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stick to one bar. So we have, I'll do that one more time. You take a kick, drop that in, select it. You know, I don't even need to look at that, because you can see in Ableton 9 the new feature is there's a contrast here, so you know. Then you can look down here, oh, each one of these is a 16th. And then you can even zoom out, right? An eighth, so you want a quarter, bam, you have a quarter, right? The lines are automatically there. You select, Control D, 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 D. So now you've created your first kick drum loop. So, holy crap. Pretty exciting, eh? So you've created your own kick drum loop. And I just noticed I put that over the MIDI track. You can do that very easily. Anyway, that's how you kind of work with MIDI. Or not MIDI, that's how you work with audio. Dragging it in and syncopating it. So you have your metronome here. It matches up. You can slow it down, you can speed it up. Right, in Ableton it keeps it all together. So we'll keep it at 128. And we'll leave it at 1 bar. So we have that. And now we will add a bass line. Or not a bass. Yeah, we'll add a bass sound. So let's find the bass synth. No, that's not it. Where be the basses at? Synth shot, no. Doing the same thing. Synth basses, okay. So we have that. We can right click, create audio track, boom. We can do that, and for an offbeat, Control D, Control D, Control D. Now we have that offbeat sound, but we can't necessarily change the pitch, so we'll delete that. We will insert a new MIDI track. This is all MIDI. So what you want to do, this little section right here, you can drop a sample. What's with these bass sounds? So you drop it here, boom. You open it in a sampler, which is a MIDI instrument, and you can do a lot of neat things with that. Don't worry about all this. It all comes in time. But what you do need to worry about is this volume slider here. You move that up to 0. Okay, so you get 0, 0, 0. You'll notice that this is armed to record, so you can play it. So I'm playing that with my keyboard now. So what you do is you wonder, okay, how do you draw in the MIDI? Like, where's the piano roll? If you're coming from FL Studio, you select the area, insert MIDI clip, and this is just a MIDI clip, right? Then you're thinking, okay, well, how do I draw it in? Take a pencil, it doesn't work. What it is, it's another tab down here, right? So now you have this, and the root key is, around here. Anyway, so you select your other kind of shortcut, which is Control B. You gotta do a bit of a stretch, and then you can draw it in. But then you have, okay, there are these fixed lengths, which suck. So you right click to kind of the length you want it to be. If you want it to be quarter note long. You draw it in, and you give it a listen. Or, yeah, better yet, we'll go an eighth. You draw these in. Now you can make the piano bigger or smaller, and it kind of works like the FL Studio one. And then you can do variations. You can go crazy. Right, and you can play a sample like an instrument with a keyboard, and that is basic MIDI. And working with MIDI, you turn off the pencil tool. You can select them, then you can make them shorter. You can select them all, and you can use the arrow key to move them up and down. You can do weird stuff. So what we'll do is that's, basic working with audio. Now, there's one-shots, which is like a kick or a sample, like a bass sample or whatnot. And then there's loops. And loops are very easy to kind of work with in live, Ableton Live. So you just here. So you go to a loop library, you go to random one. Now this is not a one shot. It's still a piece of audio. You can just drag that right in here. It's still a piece of audio, but it's a loop. And 98% of the time it loops it very well. And you don't need to warp it or whatnot. And you can play it with the metronome. And that's in time, you can tell. And then you can just kind of play that. And that's how you drop in loops. And you can stack it up. You're using bits of loops to create your own loop, basically. And it's mainly working with one-shots and loops and instruments. So now we're going to get rid of this wacky kind of bass line, or if you can call it that. And we're going to drop in a plugin. And what's happening here is Ableton is taking this data, and each one of these is a MIDI value and a MIDI note, and it's sending this to this instrument, and this instrument is processing it and sending the audio directly out here. So the MIDI is coming in this little line here. So I'll mute that. You can see the MIDI data coming in. This is MIDI data, but I turn the instrument off. You can turn it on. MIDI comes in, audio comes out. It's very simple. Right, so MIDI is coming in, audio is coming out, and whatever comes after, these are basically chains. So what I can do is I will go to my audio effects, which can be placed on any of these, be it MIDI or just audio, audio clips or waves. We'll put on a reverb because a lot of people know reverbs. Put that on there. Don't worry about all these, just worry about wet and dry. So we have it at 0, so audio is coming into this, and then audio is coming out. And right now dry means that the audio is coming out unaffected, and the wet, when it's 100%, is just the effect. So the trick is to find a mixture between dry and wet, or you can use 100% wet, who cares. And I'll just turn it up, and then 100% wet. So it's taking the signal from here, think of it as a line, and it's processing it, and then the output gets outputted here, right? And all these process audio in the same way. And that's a delay. And then you can switch them around and whatnot. So you have, again, you have an audio source. No, you have a MIDI source from Ableton, and this could be a keyboard too. It would receive MIDI, I guess, through here, and then bring it down into this channel. It's routed into this channel when it's armed, right? So right, the MIDI is received through here. See, MIDI is received. Elves inside of this plugin creates the sound. It's outputted into a chain, and the chain is reverb it's a delay to reverb, and once it's here, it goes back out to here, to this part. Right, so it's a chain basically, and then you can turn these off. And generally, for a lot of plugins, don't worry about what all this does. Just wet dry, right? A lot of them have wet dry. Some of them don't have wet dry. They have like 2 knobs, so just a kind of experiment, right? So it's pretty simple to figure out. Right. Okay. So you have these one shots here, right? And you want to turn that into a loop. And you say, well, how do I do that? So what you do is you select it so it's blue, a nice pretty blue. Right click on the top where the colored part is, and then consolidate. Boom. And now you have a loop, right? Then what you want to do is go into your clip launcher here. So basically your clip launcher, not your clip launcher, well, your clip editing window is a way to, it's basically like a mini Ableton inside of Ableton. So what it does is you can warp, you can add a groove or swing, you can pitch it up or down. Okay, I'll play that. You pitch it up or down, right? And generally there's, for audio, there's this section, and then for MIDI it's a completely different section, right? But it's kind of one and the same. There's no pitch up or down, but you can kind of see what's going on here. But for this, it's fairly straightforward. So what you want, warp, you want to leave that on for loops. So it's kind of sets master tempo. You can, reverse it. You can have it. It can have its own kind of gain stage, volume up or down. Transpose it. You can do all the fun stuff. You can. This is the warping kind of engine. It's 128, and then the host is 128. You don't need to warp it, but if you were to have the volume lower, you get artifacts. You can repitch, and it's just like a slowing down a vinyl record. And Complex and Complex Pro preserves the transients, and each of these kind of does a different thing, and it's kind of easy to figure out. If you're a DJ, it's like pressing that red button on the CDJ, and once you lower it down, you can really hear it. Right, Complex Pro. Repitch is really low. Texture, right? It takes small little grains, tones, and beats. Usually you want to stick with beats because it has a transient preservation, right? It does that, but we'll keep it at 128. And you can change this at any time. And that's basically that. Setting up a loop in Ableton. This bar up here, this is the loop kind of area. You want to select loop. Don't worry about that. Just move this over. So what you want to do is you want to set it to around here. I'll do that like one more time. So if you have a long guy here and you want to make it shorter, this little kind of indent here shows you where the loop restarts. It restarts in an odd area, but you set it here, right, and then it reflects the change here. So you made the piece of audio this short. You just move that here, and the start point's always at the beginning. I have a video on warping, and well, I might as well do another video on warping. I'll do that later. So yeah, now you have that as a loop, and then you can loop this, and it goes on forever. Each one of these little indents is where the loop restarts, right? So it's basically just this over and over, right? And you can do that for all your audio, and you should do that for all your audio. This loop section is already the full section after I consolidate it. So you go loop, pull that out, MIDI, this guy up here, this guy up here, we're good to go. Pull that over, pull that over. And this is useful, so if you make a change, you'll notice if you make a change in one area, it changes in the other areas, right? So you can just go nuts and, you know, change it. And this is how loops kind of work. Yeah. So, oh yeah, I didn't go over MIDI effects. Now there is another kind of effect, and I'll just use pitch as an example. You're taking the MIDI data coming in, because you have MIDI going in, and you're altering the MIDI values, and it's pretty straightforward. You can. There's a few kind of plugins here. Mainly I use the arpeggiator and the pitch. The pitch just for transposing. It goes 12, 24, you know, all the way down. Or I can turn it up. Right. There's pitch. Then there's an arpeggiator. And then steps. You got a chiptune type thing going on. And that is MIDI effects, VST external effects. Oh yeah, I'll show you. There's another kind of effect. So you go plugins. If you have something that's neat, you can drop in. What's something that's simple? Yeah, probably nothing. We'll go volcano. So you can. There's another kind of VST that is an effect. It's not an instrument, and they're different. You have this guy, and you can just go crazy. It's a filter plugin, and you can place this anywhere. So it handles external plugins as instruments and as effects. So that's basically the three things that you know, you got to worry about. It's really simple. It's two kinds of channels, audio or MIDI. And even the master is audio, but audio, MIDI, MIDI effects, instruments, and then audio effects, VSTs, or audio units, or audio instruments, or virtual audio instruments, and plug-in effects. Well, plug-in instruments and plug-in effects. And that's how you would kind of construct a track using all of those in an infinite amount of combinations. And I believe that is the video for